Oh boy.
And then he said, well, the journey gentleman left in a huff, and then in came Scrooge's nephew, young Fred, and said, Merry Christmas, Scrooge. And Scrooge said, humbug. And young Fred said, Christmas a humbug, surely you don't mean it. Why, I find Christmas to be a time when men and women seem by one consent to open their shut-up hearts freely and look at each other as not as different creatures, but as fellow travelers on the train to the grave. I gotta write that down. And then Mr. Scrooge said, humbug. And young Fred said, well, you may not take it from me, but Merry Christmas, and come to dinner every chance you get if you can. And then young Fred left. And then Mr. Cratchit said, I'd like tomorrow off, Mrs. Scrooge. Scrooge said, oh, it's a fine excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December. And Bob Cratchit said, it's only once a year, sir. And Scrooge said, I'll be here all the earlier the next day. We'll be here all earlier the next day. Oh, I will, Mrs. Scrooge. And off he ran home, taking 20 slides on Cornhill. And Mrs. Scrooge said, humbug. Well, Scrooge took his melancholy dinner at his melancholy inn on his way home, and when he, yes. And then he got to the door. I'm sorry, I should have gone to the rehearsal. He got to the door, and the knocker, which was grand in sight, suddenly was the knocker no longer, but the face of Jacob Marley. And then it was a knocker again. Well, Scrooge was disconcerted. He went in, he looked and made sure Jacob's pigtail wasn't poking through the back of the door. And being so convinced, he went up to his rooms and double locked himself in, which was not his normal custom. But to feel secure, he ate some oatmeal, and suddenly a little disused bell in the corner started to ring quietly. Ding, ding, dong, dong, dong. And then every bell in the room picked up and they all started ringing. And then they rang louder and louder. And then they ceased abruptly. And Mrs. Scrooge, although shaken, said, humbug. And with that, he heard chains rattling and cash drawers dragging and coming up the stairs closer and closer. And suddenly into the wall came his dead partner, Jacob Marley. And Scrooge said, who are you? Who are you?
Ask me who I was.
Who were you then? Who were you?
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley. Do you doubt your senses?
I do. I do. Simple things affect them. Simple things affect them. You may be an underdone potato. You may be an underdone potato. An undigested bit of beef. An undigested bit of beef. A blob of mustard. A blob of mustard. Why, there's more of gravy than of grave to you. There's more of gravy than grave to you.
Do you believe in me or not?
And Mrs. Scrooge said, I do believe in ghosts. I do believe in ghosts. Oh wait, that's from Wizard of Oz. L. Frank Baum in Casanova. He's a hack. Now, Mrs. Scrooge said, I must. I must. But why do you wear chains? Why do you wear chains?
These are the chains I forged in life. I made them ring by yard by yard.
Probably near the lake.
You have labored on yours. It's very, I must say, very
I know.
I never knew how awesome I was.
Just how attractive you really were. Keep going. Yours is a ponderous chain.
Yours is a ponderous chain. You've been laboring on it these 7 years.
Well, Jacob, you always were a good man of business. You always were a good man of business.
Business! Mankind is... Mankind was my business. Charity, benevolence, mercy were all my business.
The dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business. Mrs. Scrooge said, have you no comfort to offer me? Have you no comfort to offer me?
I have one hope
for your redemption.
What?
One hope for your redemption.
I have one hope for your redemption. I will bring you 3 spirits of my procuring Expect the first when the clock strikes 1. Expect the second on the next night. And the third. After that, you look to be no more.
And Mr. Scrooge said, "Bah, humbug!" And then Mr. Scrooge went to bed, and when he woke up, the clock was striking the hour, and he waited quarter past, half past, quarter till, the hour of 1, and suddenly, there before him, like a bright light, was a countenance with a face like a young child, and also at the same time like an old man. And Scrooge said, "Are you the spirit whose coming was foretold to me?" And the spirit said, "I am. I am the spirit of Christmas past." And Scrooge said, "Long past?" And Scrooge said, "No, you're past, you ninny." And then she said, "Touch my robe and you shall be upheld more than this." And suddenly Scrooge and the spirit were over the rooftops of London and found themselves in a bright clear day such as this on a snow-covered field. And there, let's do this. And there were some boys on shaggy ponies. Here, take and the young men were running back and forth. On their shaggy ponies. And Mr. Scrooge said, "My, those are some nice looking
Panther!
Mr. Scrooge said, "My, those are some nice looking young men." And then Mr. Scrooge said, "Look, it's Dick Wilkins."
Look at it, Dick Wilkins.
And Johnny Appleseed. And then the girls put the horses back in the basket and ran back to the And the spirit said, "Come another Christmas, the school is not deserted yet." And they saw young Scrooge alone. Big applause for the horses. And they saw young Scrooge just left alone, ignored, forgotten in the schoolhouse. And Scrooge cried like a little girl. And Scrooge was with his betrothed Belle, and Scrooge said, "No, spirit, I can't bear it."
No, spirit, I can't.
And she said, "These are the shadows of things that have been. Do not blame me." And Belle said, "I release you from our contract. You have chosen another idol, has displaced me, a golden one, and our contract was an old one, blah, blah, blah." Scrooge said, "Belle, I love you," and off she went, and Scrooge cried like a little girl. and then what else happened? Oh, that's Christmas present. Christmas present. Oh, and then Scrooge went, suddenly they were in front of Fezziwigs. And Scrooge said, "I was apprenticed here. I was apprenticed here." And then suddenly he saw old Fezziwig and his daughters and his wife, one fat substantial smile. And there was dancing and turkeys and mince pies and a great grand good time. And they all had a lovely time until 11 o'clock when the Fezziwig said goodnight, Merry Christmas to everyone. And Scrooge had a tear in his eye, and the spirit said, "Something wrong?" And Scrooge said, "No." And the spirit said, "Oh, I think something, yes." And Scrooge said, "Well, I'd just like to have a word with my clerk." And the spirit said, "Why is this such a big deal? That man spent nothing but a few of your mortal dollars." And Scrooge said, "You don't understand. He had the power to make our troubles heavy or light and bring us happiness or joy. And he was a good man." And Scrooge is starting to learn this. And then the spirit dwindled down. Scrooge pulled the cap down, and she was more of an extinguisher. And then Scrooge was in bed again. Waking in the middle of a prodigious snore. Scrooge was prepared for anything, and when the clock struck 1, there was nothing. Scrooge was upset. He was so upset he started to shake and quiver and quay, and suddenly he heard from the other room, "Come in and know me better, man."
Come in and know me better, man.
And Scrooge walked over and said, "Wow, who are you?" and the spirit said, "I am the ghost of Christmas present."
I am the ghost of Christmas present.
"Have you never seen the likes of me before?"
Have you never seen the likes of me before?
And Scrooge said, "Why, no, I don't believe I ever have. You look so jolly." And then the spirit said, "Have you never seen my brothers?"
Have you never seen my brothers?
And Scrooge said, "No, how many do you have?"
No, how many do you have?
And the spirit said, "More than 1,800.
More than 1,800.
Scrooge said, "Boy, that's a big laundry bill. I can't believe it." And then the spirit said, "Touch my robe and you shall see Christmas present."
Touch my robe and you shall see Christmas
And
present.
off they went to the home of Bob Cratchit, and they saw Bob Cratchit and little tiny Tim. Can you come over here, sweetheart, and help me for a minute? Or you come with us. Who's with this kid? Oh, here. Bring that. Bob Cratchit and little tiny Tim just got home from work, and and the whole Cratchit family was very happy to see them. And they had a lovely little party. Tim was on his crutch that looked a lot like a candy cane. And Mrs. Cratchit had decorated the place in ribbons, which are cheap but festive at 6 pence. And they had a meager little goose and stuffing with sage and parsley. And it was so delicious, and they were all happy. And they sat around a bowl of smoking bishop and had a little cup of punch. And little tiny Tim observed, "God bless us, everyone." Can you say, "God bless us, everyone"? You say, "God bless us, everyone." And everyone cheered for Tiny Tim, who was a brilliant. Bob Cratchit said a toast to the founder of our feast, Mr. Scrooge.
A toast to the founder of our feast, Mr. Scrooge.
And Mrs. Cratchit said, "Why, I won't drink his name. That ornery old cuss, And Bob said, "Oh, my dear, it's Christmas Day."
Oh, my dear, it's Christmas.
Well, all right, I'll drink to him for Christmas Day in your sake, not the man's. To Mr. Scrooge, and everyone said, "To Mr. Scrooge."
To Mr. Scrooge.
Tiny Tim said, "God bless us, everyone." She thought it really loudly. And then as they were happily drinking their punch, Mr. Scrooge said, "Spirit, tell me, will the boy live?"
Tell me, the boy will live?
And the Spirit said, if these actions are not changed by the future,
If these actions are not changed by the future,
I see an empty chair in the corner
I see an empty chair in the corner.
and a crutch without an owner.
A crutch without an owner.
And Mrs. Scrooge said, "Oh, say it ain't so, Spirit."
It ain't no spirit.
And the Spirit said, "Yeah, the boy will die."
The boy will die.
And Scrooge said, say it ain't so."
Say it ain't so.
And the Spirit said, "If he'd rather die, then let him do it.
If he'd rather die, then let him do it.
And decrease the surplus population."
And decrease the surplus
And
population.
Scrooge was very upset to hear his own words used against him, and he cried like a little girl. And then Bob Cratchit and his lovely son, Teeny Tom, just
Teeny Tom.
thunderous applause. And that brings us to right now. And right now, the Spirit said, "Come, we shall see another Christmas."
Come, we shall see another Christmas.
And suddenly they found themselves at the home of young Fred. Oh, for the love of God. Young Fred's Scrooge's uncle. Scrooge's nephew. And Scrooge's nephew, and Scrooge's, that's a good turn around. And Scrooge's nephew was laughing joyously. And then Scrooge's nephew said, he called Christmas a humbug.
He called Christmas a humbug.
The old goat.
The old goat.
There's probably some more good lines here.
More good.
What Mr. Scrooge called Christmas. Oh, and then he said, and then the very attractive young nephew Fred said, he's a comical old fellow,
He's a comical old fellow.
and not as pleasant as he might be.
And not as pleasant as he might be.
But his offenses carry their own punishment.
But his offenses carry their own punishment.
He may not take it from me, but he'll have it anyway. To Uncle Scrooge.
To Uncle
And
Scrooge.
everyone said, to Uncle Scrooge.
To Uncle Scrooge.
And then, so did my gloves. Wait. And then something else happened that was great. Oh. And then Ebenezer. And then everyone applauded young Fred who gave me that. And then Mr. Scrooge said, "Wow, you're looking old, Spirit."
Wow, you're looking old, Spirit.
The Spirit said, "I beg your pardon."
I beg your pardon.
And the Spirit said, "My time upon this globe is very short."
My time upon this globe is very short.
And that's it, really. We'll be back at 3:30. Round of applause. Now, I want to remind you, we'll be singing at the gazebo in the park. Join us for that. We'll be back here at 3:30 to finish up today's portion of the story.